Welcome to Fox Car Report. I'm Gary Gastelou. As you probably know by now, there's an all-new Ford Mustang on the road this year, but not just any Mustang. Not only does it mark the 50th anniversary of the original pony car, but it's also the first one designed to be sold around the world. And the process of creating it was captured on film in the new documentary, A Faster Horse, which premiered at this year's Tribeca Film Festival here in New York. With me today is the film's director, David Gelb. Before this, you were known quite well for your film Jiro Dreams of Sushi, about a very obsessive sushi chef over in Japan. How do you get from that to doing a movie about cars?
Well, you know, I think I just love making films about creative people who are passionate about what they do. And in the case of the Mustang, as you have seen in the film, Dave Parasak, the chief engineer of the Mustang, nobody is a bigger Mustang fan than him. And so he takes his work very, very seriously. And it's really about the art of building a car. Everything from the tail lamps to the sound that it makes when the door closes, a whole team pours a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into that work. And so it's kind of a moment to showcase that kind of craft.
Creative process, some similarities between the two?
Oh, sure. I mean, it's a much bigger team. I mean, the investment that goes into building a new car like the Mustang is around $1 billion, and there's a team of thousands of people working on it versus a few guys in a sushi bar. So it's a bit different. But for me, the Mustang's always been kind of personal. Whenever my dad would visit California, he'd take me out to California with him, and he'd always rent a Mustang GT convertible. And so ever since I was a kid, I just thought the Mustang was the coolest car. Everybody that I talked to seemed to have their own kind of Mustang story. So there's a real kind of emotional connection that people have with the Mustang.
Definitely part of Americana. Now, Ford funded this film, but you had creative control. You weren't getting any calls in the middle of the night from Bill Ford like, hey,
no.
Good.
No, what I did get, a lot of people just kind of suggesting, telling me what their passionate kind of Mustang stories are. But really, I was able to make the film that I wanted to make. And I don't know if anybody's ever been able to kind of shoot a behind the scenes of a massive corporation like Ford. But that's the cool thing about Ford, is that they're really, even though they're a big corporation, they're kind of fearless. And so they had no complaints or qualms about the movie, even though we showed the warts and all of the entire kind of creation process.
You had great access to literally secret locations. You saw cars that people weren't going to see for months later. Was that difficult for you to keep all this sort of thing under wraps? It's kind of different from what you've done before.
Well, I mean, it's so cool that I kind of want to just tell everybody about it. But of course, we really had to keep it secret while we were shooting it. But as you see in the film, we're walking into rooms where there are big signs saying no recording ever. So, really nobody's ever shot in some of these spots before.
Did it play out like you expected it, or were there changes in the story along the way?
There are always changes in the story. And, something that we kind of figured out while we were shooting it is who are our main characters. Whenever you're making a film about any kind of subject, you need to find that personal human experience through which you tell the story. And really, I found that the key to the story was really Dave Parasak and Tom Barnes, the chief vehicle engineer, and the chief nameplate engineer of the vehicle and the vehicle engineering manager, because these are the guys who have 50 years of history on their shoulders, plus this massive, massive investment, and then legions of fans all around the world who all kind of have their own opinion about Mustang. But ultimately, Dave is trying to make this car live up to his own expectations, because as you'll see in the film, he talks about how he proposed to his wife inside of a Mustang. He is the ultimate Mustang fan, and so he's ultimately trying to make a car that satisfies himself as a big fan of the car.
And along with them, you did talk with a lot of people from the history of the Mustang involved in the previous generation.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the story of the original Mustang, the story about Lee Iacocca kind of getting this car through the company, which was really hurting at the time back in the early 60s. The Edsel was such a colossal disaster for Ford that they were pretty skittish about making a new car. But Lee Iacocca, who's really one of the greatest car salesmen of all time, if not the greatest car salesman of all time, he knew that baby boomers wanted a affordable, beautiful vehicle. And this was the first car, really, that was an aspirational vehicle that a normal person could actually afford.
What was your biggest surprise as someone with new exposures, your first time really being exposed to the automotive industry?
Well, I mean, I think that the fact that you have an assembly line where every day you're making 300 or more cars and you need 2,000 parts to be perfectly designed, tested, and engineered and arriving at that facility at the same time, and then this sort of like symphony of, and I think we have a clip that you can see some of that stuff of the machines working, the people working, and it's kind of, yeah, it's this whole orchestra that kind of comes together and creates this car that when it reaches the end, it starts out as just sheet metal, and when it reaches the end of the assembly line, you can get in it, you turn it on, you can just rip it across the road, and it's just kind of amazing how that works.
Have you driven the car yourself yet?
I have, yeah. It's awesome.
Big
it is
fan
awesome.
of the car.
I'm
a big fan myself. I'll admit it. One other thing I have to admit, I'm not even sure if you knew this before you came here today, but my voice appears in the film in the background in one of the scenes from the launch of the car. So look, if you get any award nominations for this, I of course expect a shout out. If not, invite up on stage with you when you get the award.
I think that's only fair.
All right. We'll be looking forward to that. A Faster Horse is at the Tribeca Film Festival now. Any plans for it after that?
To be announced. But this is a movie that it's powerful. You feel the real adrenaline of riding the car with the bass, the sound of the engine. So it's really something that should be seen on the big screen, and we're hoping to announce some plans for that in the near future.
All right, David Gelb, thanks for dropping by today. For more on the Ford Mustang, of course, and all the automotive news, head on over to autos.foxnews.com, and we will see you next time.